Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Gatewood. I am the Communications and Marketing Director at CFRE International. I'm coming to you your daytime, my nighttime. I am based in Tucson, Arizona, in the United States, which is 1 hour north of the Mexican border for perspective. And I know that we had people from all around the Asia Pacific region register for today's webinar. We are recording, and I will email a link to the recording along with the slides in 24 to 48 hours. Keep an eye on your inbox because that will be headed your way. I am also very pleased that today I am joined by Ryan Ginard, who we will hear from a little bit later, and I will make a proper introduction of him in a couple of slides, actually. He will be giving you the perspective of a person who has gone through the CFRE process successfully. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into how to become a CFRE, with CFRE standing for Certified Fundraising Executive. I'll just start off the top with a little bit about credentials to level set, which is essentially why would you earn a credential, right? We know that the CFRE is a voluntary credential. You don't have to have it, right? But credentials are very important because they assure the public that you have a certain level of competency, right? You wouldn't take your taxes to an accountant who did not have some kind of credential or certification. You would not even be able to go to a hairdresser, right, and get your hair cut without that person having a professional license. Yet in fundraising, no such requirement exists. We are here as that voluntary credential for the folks that want to prove their mastery, signify to their donors, board, colleagues, boss, and beyond. I am a fundraising executive who has met these standards, all right? So when we think about credentials, one thing is that oftentimes we don't just get them and say, well, that was fun, I'm just gonna ride off into the sunset now. Most credentials have a continuing education requirement. This is to keep your knowledge fresh. And if you want to put that into perspective, if you do have an academic degree, think back about the year you earned that degree. Think as well about what field your degree is in. For me, I have an master's of advertising from 2005, which is so out of date, it is tragic, right? 18 years have passed. So much has happened in the world from 2005 to now. My master's degree is not holding its value, right? This is something very common when you have a degree because you earn it and then you just get on with your life. Or let's say you go on a certificate program, you attend a couple of days, you take in a huge body of knowledge, you feel really great, and then 6, 7, 8, 9 years pass, and that certificate may not be as relevant as at the time that you earned it, right? So this is why credentials are very in demand. We hear from people who have earned the CFRE about what the difference is to their career, their job prospects before and after. We often hear that CFREs say, I am definitely more sought after. And this isn't just the CFRE, but with credentials in general, right? You have set yourself apart. You are going head and shoulders above, especially with a voluntary credential, because this isn't something that your boss says, look, if you don't earn this in 6 months, we're going to have to reassess your ability to be employed here, right? This is something that's voluntary, and it shows that you want to go that extra distance. The ongoing education component is super important. Fundraising best practices are very solid, but we get new information, right? We learn things about digital fundraising, about the next generation of donors that are coming up, Generation Z. There are always new things to learn in the fundraising space, and having a credential will help you continue to do that. And I'll talk a little bit later about how that all works. And it shows that you have a cutting edge practice. Nobody wants to be doing their job today and think, oh, are my skills up to date? Am I a little bit rusty? Is somebody going to get hired on my team and they're going to have this incredible set of skills and blow me away? And I'm going to think, oh my gosh, I should have really spent my time investing in my knowledge, right? You want to do the best for your team, for your organization. And one of the clearer ways to do that is to ensure that you always have a current body of knowledge. All right, now let's take a look here at what is the CFRE. We are the only globally recognized accredited credential for fundraising professionals. Whether you're in Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, India, Japan, wherever in the world, your credential means the same thing. Whichever country you're joining us from today, think about your career there, and then think about, well, does my organization have offices in another country? Is there an ability that there might be donors that I'm going to speak with who might be from another country? Do I have an interest in one day maybe moving to the US or Canada or somewhere else and staying in the fundraising profession, right? When you have a global credential, it's transferable with you wherever you go, right? It's not just a New Zealand credential or a Canadian credential or a Korean credential. It is truly global. We have been around for over 40 years, and everything that we stand for and by is ethical best practice fundraising. We all want to think that everybody at nonprofits have big hearts and never would go astray. I, very early in my career, worked for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. My coworker on the development team stole between 1.5 and 4 million US dollars. They never got to the bottom of the exact amount. When these things happen, the amount that it turns your world upside down is inexplicable. When people are hiring, they want full assurance that you are an ethical person that is operating to the best standards. No organization wants to see their name in the headlines for the wrong reasons. There are a number of benefits that the CFRE offers you. Firstly, that you verify your knowledge. Anybody can walk into a job interview and say, hey, I'm a pro at this. I'm so amazing at fundraising, and I know all the best practices. I do everything correctly. But what is the proof in the pudding backing them up? How do we verify that? Well, that's what the credential does. It also addresses any gaps in your fundraising knowledge. The CFRE is a credential with an application and an exam, right? And the exam tests your knowledge of ethical best practice fundraising. In preparing for the exam, many people tell us, I didn't realize I had a weakness in this area, right? I didn't realize that I didn't really have current knowledge on volunteer management or such and such, right? So the CFRE is the opportunity that you have to invest in yourself and ensure that you don't have gaps in your knowledge. It is also a great tool to ensure that you don't pass down bad habits. If you train people, you don't want to inadvertently train them to do something incorrectly, and maybe you're doing it incorrectly, and it's just because you learned on the job from somebody and they weren't doing everything quite by the board. So this is these are three of the reasons why people love the CFRE. It does boost people's confidence, and we'll talk about that in another slide, but because it's going to help you in all of these areas. Education and healthcare. If you are a fundraising professional in either of these areas, having a credential can be especially beneficial for you. We hear this oftentimes from people, right, that are in university settings, in hospitals. When they're in meetings and around the table, they're sitting with PhDs, doctors, nurses, people who have professions that require them to constantly upskill and stay current, right? When people have their CFRE and they're sitting around the table with other professionals that aren't necessarily in their profession, they feel validated. They feel that they can stand behind the four letters after their name and say, you know, you have earned this, but this is what I've earned in my field. Many people think about the CFRE and then they go, I don't know if this is really the right time for me. Well, I'll talk a little bit now about why, if you're weighing up the CFRE, now can be a very smart time for you to look at pursuing it. One is it is a truly global credential. If you want to move your career across borders, the CFRE is a wonderful tool to help you do that and land a job. Be ready for a recession. We all keep hearing about this recession that may or may not be coming, but we want to be ready for the worst, right? That's the best way to prepare, is to be ready for the worst case scenario. If you find that your area is in a recession, it is even more challenging to raise funds. It is incredibly important that you are as skillful and masterful as you could possibly be as you're going through a difficult recession or other fundraising challenges. You want to become a CFRE before you need to be one. This is a saying that I started saying a few years ago. If you are going to look for a new job, you don't want to earn your credential 2 weeks into your job search, right? You don't want to start working towards this. You want to have it in your back pocket so that you can talk about it in the interview process. If you are going to be speaking with a very high profile, high net worth major donor in a month, and you want to feel fully confident in yourself, you don't want to start working towards your CFRE right 3 days before you're going to meet with this person. You want to have this in your back pocket before you need it. All right. Now, these are all statistics that came from our last CFRE certificate survey in 2021. We are actually running it again right now. It is open, so I will have new data in about 10 days from now, but this is the most recent data. CFREs say the certification has positively impacted earning potential. This isn't in every market or for every person. However, we do hear from people that say, I was able to leverage this for more pay when I moved to my next job. I think it would be great if you earned a credential, then your boss said, hey, Ashley, hey, Ryan, here's an extra $40,000, right? Fortunately, it usually doesn't work that way. Most people find that the boost they get is when they move to their next job. 89% say it provided them with enhanced professional opportunities. We often hear from CFREs that the first job hunt they did as a CFRE was really different to the ones they had done prior. They got more calls back. They had more calls coming proactively from recruiters. And thirdly, it increased their on-the-job confidence. We all know imposter syndrome is a very real thing. Many of us feel it at different stages in our careers, and it's not something that we should run from, right? Because it's so incredibly common. People tell us, I felt that this was a huge step in my battle against imposter syndrome, or in me feeling like, okay, I could move into a director role, or I could move into a CEO role because I would have full understanding of working with a board and how the fundraising for an organization overall should look. All right, so with that, we are going to hear from Ryan Ginard, who is coming to us today from Canberra. He has been a CFRE since 2021. He is also the author of Nonprofit Moneyball and Future Philanthropy. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us and telling us a little bit about your CFRE journey.
Yeah, no worries. And thanks for the introduction there. I can't share my video, but I do exist as a chatbot. But I always like to preface my comments by saying I am very much a proud fundraiser and a proud CFRE. I think it's important we take pride in the profession because it is largely self-regulated. And sometimes we feel that we're on an island, especially in smaller non-profits where we're wearing many hats, right? So in terms of CFRE, why I became one, it really has kind of evolved over time, to be fair. So I first took my exam very early on in my career when I just clicked 3 years of service and fundraising, and it was very much career-driven, career-motivated. I actually ended up failing that, and then kind of took with me a lot of guilt into why aren't I a good fundraiser? Is this the profession for me? And I kept on persevering. And definitely a thing I share with a lot of fundraisers now is that, you know, you're a good fundraiser. Like just taking the CFRE doesn't prove or certify that you are a good fundraiser. You are one just for the work you do, but it is a passport into all the things that Ashley has shared. So in terms of that career-driven chapter, I then ended up taking the exam during COVID, and that was very much it was a commitment to best practice, to be fair. Everyone was saying, well, how do we do professional development here? And a lot of people were doing virtual conferences and doing a lot of LinkedIn learning. And I pitched up to my boss, well, maybe it's a time for me to really get grounded in best practice, and said, would I be able to take the CFRE? Obviously, kind of digging into some of those I guess, repressed memories and trauma for failing the first time. But this time I definitely took it a lot more seriously and knew that it wasn't going to catapult my career. It was going to complement my career. So I took it for different reasons. And I feel that now those reasons are what have helped me pass, have helped me grow in the space, have helped me take jobs in different countries, have seen my kind of wages explode. They've more than doubled in the past couple of years. And now, to be fair, I'm in a third chapter where it's like that self-actualization phase of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I guess this is Ryan's hierarchy of fundraising needs, because now I'm just committed to helping professionalize the profession. And sharing the benefits of the CFRE. As Ashley pointed out, I'm kind of an ambassador here, and I speak with lots of people that are looking to take the exam or are looking for tips on how to move forward. And, you know, we have to really just kind of look at the Australian market, for an example. It's a good time to be a fundraiser right now. The government has made a commitment to double giving by 2030. And the only way we're going to double giving is by having better and more fundraisers. You know, the number one reason people give is because they are asked. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that ask, and there's a lot of motivations that go into how much people give and why they give. But, you know, the National Skills Commission has identified fundraising as one of the top 20 emerging professions in Australia. It's a well-paid profession in terms of our peers in other countries. There is a lot of room for growth. So yeah, everything that Ashley shared now, I've been the beneficiary of, and definitely will see people that are taking it now who are very early on in their careers going on to some very big and important roles, whether it be at museums, whether it be at higher ed institutions. Again, lean into this profession. It's self-regulated, so you have a lot of control on where you can go. And yeah, I've obviously kind of practiced what I preach and founded Fundraise for Australia, which is geared towards identifying 1,000 new fundraisers. But part of that fundraising journey is telling them that CFRE is something that will ignite their careers much more than the initial introduction we give to them. And we've already seen a CFRE come out of that first cohort. So I'm glad to see the cause and effect. So yeah, you take your CFRE purely for being grounded in best practice. The idea of constantly learning, like I'm about to take my recertification next year, and a lot of the points that you accrue, and obviously Ashley will share with those soon, is through my writing and through presenting at webinars and conferences about the benefits of fundraising career, and you know, new approaches, kind of gifts, and celebrating how they were constructed, talking about how to leverage impact investing. Again, fundraising is evolving, the ecosystem's evolving. So again, good time to be there. So just finally, benefits to my career. As I said, I managed to come back to Australia, which was an important thing for me and my family. And the CFRE really got me there because it helped differentiate my candidacy versus a lot of local candidates, because it is a global certification. And a lot of institutions now for leadership levels are actually putting CFRE in part of the desired requisites for experience. And yeah, it really is your passport, and not kind of from that global sense, but again, to transition up the ranks for your career and stuff. I'll talk more about tips later on, so I'll defer back to you, Ashley. But yeah, it's having the CFRE is open doors, and I would recommend it to anyone and everyone that will take the time to listen.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you sharing your viewpoint, and you're a very passionate advocate of the CFRE, which is much appreciated. And if you have any questions for Ryan, and we do have a Q&A box, or if you have questions for me, you can drop your questions in there. We will be stopping about halfway through. So feel free to let us know what's on your mind, and we will come back to you and get you the answers you need. All right, so the steps to become a CFRE, there's just 2 steps, an application and passing the exam. The application itself is looking at what you've done in the last 5 years. Right now, we are looking at January 1st, 2018 forward. When January 1 of 2024 hits, we will be looking at 2019 forward, okay? So that'll all make a little bit more sense in the coming slides, but essentially the CFRE process is looking at what you have done in the last 5 years. The application itself will not expire. If you start an application today and you don't log in for 6 months, it'll still be good. If you started an application 3 years ago, we still have it. You don't have to finish this application in one sitting. I have heard people tell me, oh, I just poured myself a glass of wine and I spent a rainy Sunday afternoon working on my CFRE application. That's one way to do it, but we have many more people that do it a little bit at a time. And that is actually probably the way to do it that's most effective. You can start your application for free. We have 2 places on our website. So my CFRE account, that's going to get your application cooking. You will only pay if and when you submit your application. So let's say you start your application and 4 months from now, you win the lottery. Well, you haven't paid any money to submit your application and now you're going to buy a yacht, right? So you're not going to be out any money when you start your application. It runs on a point system, and there are 3 main areas that are driven by points. The first is education. You need 80 points, and you're thinking, Ashley, that's great, but what the heck is a point? Well, a point is something you earn by spending 1 hour in a fundraising session. All right. So you go on a 1-hour webinar about the essentials of a capital campaign toolkit. 1 point. You go to a masterclass that has 5 hours of instruction time on volunteer management. 5 points. Super easy. 1 point you're in a session, 1 point per hour that you're in a session. You will earn yourself 2 points per hour when you present existing material. So if you like to present, this is a great ticket for you. If you think, Ashley, I would rather fall through the floor than have to get up in front of a room of people, I totally get it. You don't have to present. But if you do present, like Ryan was talking about at conferences, you get 2 points per hour that you present. I am an incredibly frugal person in all aspects of my life. I'm always trying to think, what is the cheapest way to do something? And if you're thinking, okay, Ashley, I need to get all these points, but it's going to cost me money to go on webinars or conferences. Remember, if you present, you often get a free pass to that day at a conference. That can be a really great way to be able to get your name out there as a presenter and share your expertise, and then get to sit in the remaining sessions of that day and bank up points. There are also a number of free and very low cost ways that you can earn these points as well. We have a part of our website called My Education Finder. You can search in there for online or in-person education opportunities. They are all fundraising related, and all of them will count towards your application. That is another way to go about this if you really want to do it cheaply and efficiently. Now, if you present new material for the first time, we will give you 3 points per hour to recognize the time you put into assembling that, doing your research. If you have an academic degree, that's great. If you don't have an academic degree, that's fine. You don't have to have an academic degree for this. The great thing about academic degrees, though, is that if you have one, we will give you points for it in any year and any major. So if you say, Ashley, I have a bachelor's in philosophy from 1999, is that good? Yes, that is 10 points. Any year, any major, we will award 10 points for each of the kinds of degrees you see on the left, and then 5 points if you have an associate, which is kind of like a tech degree, right? Which would be kind of like a community college or a shorter term kind of higher education. We can also award points for relevant non-fundraising education. This is anything such as a leadership seminar, a public speaking course, a budget and finance class. All of these things we go, okay, yep, we can see how they're going to ladder up to your fundraising success. Do not be the person that thought yoga for fundraisers was relevant non-fundraising education, because it was not. You can earn up to 10 points from that, right? So up to 10 hours of that education can be non-fundraising. We also can award points for any volunteering you do. Again, this is not compulsory, but if you have the opportunity to volunteer, you can earn 1 point per year per org you volunteer with. Does not have to run the full calendar year. If I volunteer at a beach cleanup for 4 weekends in November, that will earn me my 1 point per year per org, right? Because a lot of opportunities just don't run 12 months out of the year. All right, now let's say you're on a board or a committee for your local local FIA chapter, maybe at your place of worship or your children's school. You can earn 2 points per year per org that you are on a committee or board. All right, so that's one of the 3 application areas done. The second one is the easiest. It's so painless. You need 36 points for professional practice. Professional practice just means you working, okay? Super easy. You just need to have worked 36 months in the last 5 years in a paid professional fundraising role. At least 50% of your job must be fundraising in order for it to qualify. You heard Ryan tell you that he began to pursue his CFRE with 3 years experience, right? That's the earliest that you can move forward in this process. If you have fewer than 3 years experience, what many people do is they get their education done so that as soon as they hit that 36-month mark, they can submit their application and get rocking and rolling. The third and final application piece with points is professional performance. This is you raising money. This is what you do. This is what you're great at doing. So this one, again, I'm sure you're all amazing at it. You need 55 points in the last 5 years, and 1 point equals 25,000 US dollars. And people think, why is this in US dollars? Because I'm in New Zealand, I'm in China. It's because we're accredited. Our accrediting body only permits us to have one currency that everything is used as a standard, right? So we have a currency converter inside the application if you are fundraising in a currency that's not US dollars, which is many people. And this works out to be kind of a random number, but once you hit this, you are good within the last 5 years. Now, if you say, Ashley, I don't bring that much money in, like there's no way that I'm going to make that requirement on funds raised. I'm in a very small organization. I'm a department of one. That is okay. We have a way that you can earn these points through communications and management projects. These would be things such as if you created a new bequest kit and the number of pledges increased by 15% in the first 12 months, right? That would be considered a communications project because you created this kit, you got it out there, and it had a tangible result. Okay, so what does this cost? So to become a CFRE, you pay one fee when you submit your application. This is $700 if you are a member of a participating organization, which is basically just an organization that offers their members a 20% discount on the CFRE cost. All right. So we have a number of participating organizations in Asia Pacific that we partner with so that you can get that $175 discount. Educate Plus, FIA, the Association of Fundraising Professionals in China, also FIDC, Fundraising Institute of New Zealand, Hong Kong Management Association, etc. So if you are a current member of any of them, you will get the preferred rate. That rate covers your application review, all your testing fees, you getting a digital badge to announce to your network when you're a CFRE, and the printing and mailing of your certificate. So it's just one all-inclusive fee that will cover all of that. All right. It looks like we don't have any questions that have come in yet, which is fine. We will just cruise through this next slide. All right. Now, we've talked about the application. The rest of this hour we will use to talk about the exam. Many people are nervous to take the CFRE exam. I want to do everything I can to melt away your exam anxiety over the next 25 minutes. This is your field. You do this Monday through Friday or maybe 4 days a week, but you are not taking an exam on a new foreign concept to you that you're just trying to get your arms around for the first time ever, right? I always tell people you are never smarter and wiser than you are in this moment, right? You've never been smarter. You've never had more information. You've never been more experienced at your job than you have been right now, right? So we have 4 annual test windows. We don't offer the exam every day of the year. Why would you take it in December, right? That would just be crazy. So you can test any month of the year you want, except for December. Each test window has a deadline. All this means is that if you want to sit for the exam in that test window, you should have your application submitted by the deadline, right? Because you don't want to think, oh, I'll take it in that second test window and then try to submit your application on June 13th, because it's going to be zero wiggle room. The exam covers 6 knowledge domains, which you can see here on your screen. These make up the entire exam, right? There's nothing that I'm showing you on this slide that will not be on the exam. There's not stuff hanging out in the wings that's going to be on the exam that's not on here. We are very, very, very upfront with you about what this exam covers. You will notice here that securing the gift and relationship building make up about half the exam, right? Do not skimp on these 2 areas. You want to be thorough in general, but obviously if almost half the exam is coming from securing the gift and relationship building, you're going to give that a lot of good focus. Now you're probably thinking, well, Ashley, this is very broad. There's a lot of you could say about all 6 of these, and I would completely agree with you. We have a test content outline on our website. This is a PDF. This breaks down each of those 6 domains into the very, very nitty gritty. There are bullet points under each of the domains, so you will know precisely which topics you need to be familiar with when you come to this exam. I always recommend that you print this off, the PDF version, right? Because there's a web and a PDF. Print off the PDF version, grab your highlighter, and highlight everything you do not feel confident you could answer an exam question on, or that you have not directly worked in yourself. That's going to help determine where you will focus your study time. There's no point spending hours and hours studying something that you've been doing for 20 years and you know inside out, right? You want to address any of those knowledge gaps in your fundraising. All right, now when you are ready to take the exam, keep in mind it is global. If you take it in Sydney, it will be the same as if you take it in Tokyo. It will be the same as if you take it in Cape Town. And no matter where in the world you sit for this exam, it is the same questions. You will have 4 hours to take the exam. Some of the best news I have for you today is that the average length of time it takes to complete it is 2 hours and 45 minutes. We get all of this data back from our testing partner. I say you have 4 hours for the exam. That does not mean that it is a 4-hour exam. You will have ample time to review your answers. You will be able to slow yourself down and read every word of every question. Read every word of every answer option as well, right? So you should not feel rushed. We want to set you up for success. Everything on that exam ties back to the test content outline. You can move backwards and forwards in the exam. This is fantastic for you because if you get really hung up on question 11, but question 80 jogs your memory, you can head back to question 11. You can flag questions in the exam that you want to come back to. And it will always show you which question out of the full set that you're in, right? So you always know the exact numbered question that you're on. The score ranges from 200 to 800 with 500 as a passing score. One of the other CFRE ambassadors always says, don't stress getting an 800. You don't have to have an 800 to pass the exam. 500 is the pass mark, right? So don't think, oh my gosh, if I get one question wrong, that's it. That's the end. It is not that kind of exam. We don't expect you to have a 100% correct answer rate. We understand that not everyone is going to get every question right. So don't stress about that. There is more information about scoring on our website. So let's talk about the questions themselves. In more good news, the exam is multiple choice. The correct answer is staring back at you on the screen. There are no open-ended questions. There are no essay questions. You will have 4 options per question that you are deciding between. What you are going to provide is the best answer of the best practice. You may be thinking, yeah, Ashley, of course. Let me tell you what trips people up. Some people take the exam and they answer every question for how their organization does something. I'm sure your workplace is amazing. I'm sure you're above board. But if your organization is not following absolute best practice, and maybe that's because you have a cranky executive director who says you have to do things the way you did them 25 years ago, whatever reason, right? That is not going to be a great strategy for you if you're just thinking about every question through the lens of how your organization does something. You want to really think about what is the ethical best practice in this situation. I have a sample question we'll look at together. This does not appear on the live exam. This will give you a flavor for how these questions apply globally and what kind of answer we're looking for, okay? So the question asks, when a donor wishes to make a planned gift/bequest to the endowment fund, the fundraising officer should first, 1, offer to contact the donor's financial organization and advisor. 2, explore what the donor wishes to accomplish with the gift. 3, identify and share with the donor the organization's future needs. Or 4, introduce the donor to various planned giving options. You don't have to tell me your answer. You don't have to type it anywhere. Just have it in your mind. All right, everybody made their selection. The correct answer is number 2, to explore what the donor wishes to accomplish with the gift. You do not want to steer the donor towards this program area, this area of need. You want the donor to come to you and express what their philanthropic goals are first, right? And then you'll take the conversation from there. To prepare for the CFRE exam, we have a resource reading list on our website, which features 8 books. Far and away, the most popular book people use is Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, 5th edition. This book is often considered the gold standard currently as far as fundraising texts go. Even if maybe you don't decide to pursue your CFRE, reading this will be a great benefit to you. The book is available on Amazon. I'm not entirely sure if it's in every single country. I know in Australia it definitely is because I took this screenshot last week. You can see as well over in that corner where it says the $96 that it's on sale. Amazon periodically puts this book on sale. If you're like me and you want to find the cheapest way to do everything, you can make a note to yourself to just check in on this periodically. And when it hits a price that you're happy with, go ahead and buy it. We have a glossary on our website. This is really the first port of call when you study. The glossary is the language of the exam. If you think, oh, I'm really worried because I'm in Korea and maybe we use this term that is not used in New Zealand, what's going to actually be on the exam? The glossary will take all of that mystery out of it for you. We lay out precisely when we use this word, this is what we mean. I recommend that you read the glossary up front, get familiar with it, and read it again the week before you take the exam. You do not have to memorize the definitions, not at all, but it is highly recommended that you are familiar with what the test questions are going to be asking, right? The actual language of the exam. When you are ready to take your exam, you have 2 options for how you can take it. One is from your home or office, and the other is in person at a Pearson VUE test center. And if you're thinking, I've never heard of Pearson VUE, there's not a Pearson VUE near me. Well, Pearson VUE is a company you may have never heard of, but they're all over the place. So I'm going to show you in the next slide how to find your closest Pearson VUE center, but I want to talk about these 2 options first. You can take this from your home or office. We recommend that if you have a mobility or health concern, or you happen to live out in the outback, or you're somewhere quite far away, right? You're on Stewart Island. We recommend, if you can, get to an in-person test center to do that. Why? Because you statistically have a higher chance of passing if you go in person at the test center. We get all the data back. We know this for a fact. You may think, Ashley, that makes no sense. I would be more comfortable at home. Is your home a distraction-free test center? It is not, right? None of our houses are. When you take the exam from your home or office, you cannot leave the room. I'll explain a little bit more about this, but when you're actually answering questions on the exam, you may not leave the room under any circumstance. A delivery driver drops off a $700 piece of furniture on your front porch and you're taking this exam and you hear them leave it, you cannot get up. It will invalidate the exam, and that is for security reasons because they don't want people stepping out of the room and looking things up. So people actually feel a lot more tense when they're at home because they're scared the doorbell's going to ring or the dog is going to start barking or whatever. To find your closest Pearson VUE test center, type in pearsonvue.com/CFRE. There'll be a little link you click, find test center, and then you will type in your postal code. It will populate a map like you see here on your screen. So I did this for Ultimo, and you can see in Sydney where these test centers are. So you can go ahead and do that for wherever you are living. The exam is 200 questions, which we already discussed. However, you are given the questions in 2 lots. When you sit down at the computer, you will be given questions 1 to 100. You can move back and forth through those 100 questions. You can flag them. You check, you can't check your work against anything physical, right? But you can check it up here, right? When you are done those 100 questions, there will be a box that comes up on your screen. It will say, do you want to start your optional 10-minute break? Okay. Click that box and you will have up to 10 minutes to do whatever it is that you need to do, right? Take medication, have a snack, use the restroom. You cannot access any books or materials. You cannot access your phone. The security at the exam centers is very tight, but that is because we don't want anyone to have an unfair advantage, right? When those 10 minutes are over, you will be given questions 101 to 200. You will not be able to return to the first 100 questions for security reasons. They don't want people hiding notes in the bathroom, people hide notes in water bottles, people do all kinds of weird stuff, right? When you're finished with the second set of 100 questions and you're satisfied with your answers, that is when you will submit the exam to be scored and you will get your score. All right. Now, Ryan, are you still with us? You are still here. Excellent.
Yes, I am
All right.
still here.
I know you've got to run, but just in summation, what would be your final remarks for people contemplating whether or not to do this?
Yeah, well, the answers do it because of all the benefits we mentioned before. But again, kind of reflections from this. When you're taking the exam, again, you don't have to be perfect. And that's something I definitely want to double down on there, Ashley. 50+1 is showing off in all the exams you take. So again, don't know enough just to get you over the line. You obviously go in there prepared. But know that the questions are geared in a way where you can eliminate some. You can pretty much just see a lot of them are donor centric. So if you take those approaches, I failed the first time because I didn't take the exam seriously. I thought this is going to be a cakewalk. I took the CFRM, Liddy School of Philanthropy, beforehand and looked at all the notes they had there. It's a different curriculum of which they derive from. So if I was starting my study, I would definitely join a study group. There's a lot out there that you can kind of go in. Seriously, working with your peers to get you over the line is the best thing. A lot of them also share the textbooks, so that eliminates kind of some of the funding there. But again, it's strength in numbers. Fundraisers are a community. CFRE is definitely a community. So in terms of that preparation, definitely look towards a study group. And there's a lot of people out there like Jack Alotto in California is one of my favorite, and he has a strong affinity for Australians. So he's a good one to reach out to there. In terms of just getting started, I would just apply. I do a lot of the planning that Ashley's mentioned. There's actually some pretty smart ways of articulating this to your leadership. Don't be afraid about asking to do it as part of your professional development. Don't be afraid of asking them to pay for it. There's other ways you can do it. You could say that I'll pay for it, and if I pass, would you reimburse me? But be confident in yourself and be confident in the ROI. So definitely, I think there's some text as well, isn't there? In terms of sending an email, sharing why it's good for your organization. And again, a lot of Australian organizations are now going into campaigns. Campaigns is something that's been predominantly in the US realm, and they've been very successful. And a lot of Australian organizations are looking towards that as their next steps to bring in significant resources for those they serve. So again, this is an investment in you. It helps with retaining staff. It helps with morale. You'll end up taking leadership roles and kind of becoming the trainer, as it were, and educating folks. That's the again, my evolution. I now kind of go out and share all the stuff that I've been privileged to glean. So yeah, just get out there and know how you learn, know how you take the approach. Just book in a date for the exam and deconstruct it from there. So I never thought I'd say this, but also kind of track fluctuations in currency, because back when I did it, it was at parity. So 25,000 US was 25,000 Australia. So you can kind of work towards that. But again, CFRE is a very, very, very important credential to our community. There's only around 115 to 120 accredited CFREs in Australia, and we should look to link arms and grow that over time. So by 2030, when the government wants to double giving, we'll have an opportunity to do so. So again, I've got to duck off now, but I'm happy to help anyone. I met with someone in Sydney last week. Happy to take phone calls. Add me on LinkedIn. I'm a resource for you here in Australia, and kudos to all the work the CFRE does, and for inviting me to share some remarks.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Great wisdom. We appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. We've got 9 minutes left, so if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the Q&A. I will make sure that we get you the information that you need. Once you finish the exam, within 1 business day, you will get a confirmation email with your score, or sorry, within 48 hours. Within 1 business day, you get a confirmation, hey, we got your test result, right? 2, the second email is that your score is actually going to be in it. Most people get it instantaneously at the test center. Sometimes there are weird hiccups though, so it could take up to 48 hours. That's really not likely, but just letting you know. Within 1 week, you get that digital badge, so you can announce that to your network on LinkedIn or Twitter is where most people use them. We will mail your certificate usually in about a month. They tend to be at the end of those test windows. So just know we don't mail certificates every single day of the test cycle. Recertification. So this is how we talked about what is the difference between a credential and just getting a certificate for a 5-day training. The credential, you're re-upping. The CFRE, you recertify every 3 years. So you heard Ryan talk a little bit about he had to renew soon next year. There's no exam to recertify. Once you've passed our exam, you are golden. You don't ever have to worry about that again, all right? Now, the cost to recertify is $408 US if you are a participating organization member. Many people have this built into their employment contract with the first job they take after they become a CFRE. When they're negotiating the contract, they will say, I became a CFRE in 2023. In 2026, I need to recertify. I would like for you to cover that cost. We know with all things, right? If you don't ask, you don't get. You may not get it, but you did ask. So that's what's important. And hopefully your employer will work with you on that. Many, many, many people have had success with their employers with the recertification. To recertify, you can see the points that you need on your screen here. So they're a little bit different from the initial certification. The one that I want to point out though is professional practice, where you need 30 points. This means that you need to have worked for 30 months in a 36-month period. If you are out for maternity leave, medical leave, something similar, contact our office and we will work with you so that you will be able to go on what we call special circumstances, and you will be able to recertify if you meet your other requirements, because nobody is going to lose their CFRE because they've had a medical situation. All right. And I have put into the chat Jack Alato's email address. He's who Ryan mentioned. Jack runs an online CFRE study group that is free. Many people in Australia have been part of it. And actually, with the time zone difference between New Zealand, Australia, different places in Asia to California, that's where Jack's out of, it can actually work really well for your schedule. He is next running it in January. If you would like to join that group, send him an email and he will get you either information to decide whether or not you want to do it, or he will give you everything you need to be part of the group. We've had a question come in. Okay, so what is the process if you need to retest? Excellent question. If you are not successful the first time, you have the ability to retake the exam. There is a 30-day mandatory wait period, okay? So let's say today is November 6th. I'm not successful on the exam, but we know there's no exam offered in December. I would next be able to take the exam in early January. That would be, or sorry, January 15th is when the next window starts. So early in the next test window. We recommend that you don't cut a fine line with when you book your exam, right? Let me talk about what that means. Once we approve your application, you have up to 1 year to take the exam. Today for you is the 7th of November. It's the 6th of November for me, but for you, it's the 7th of November. That means if you had your application approved today, that you would have until the 6th of November, 2024 to take the exam. Many people take the exam on the absolute final day that they can. That does not give you wiggle room, and we do not recommend it. It's always best to give yourself some extra space just in the event that you may need to retest. The retake fee is $375 US. People say to me, Ashley, that is steep. It is steep because we want you to pass and be successful the first time. You want to pass and be successful the first time. That retake fee is really a deterrent so that people think I need to buckle down when it comes to studying. We surveyed all CFREs, everybody who had successfully passed the exam, and we asked them how many hours they studied. We found a very sweet spot between 40 and 80 hours. That is how long most people need to study to be successful. If you have fewer than 3 years experience, we would recommend that you study closer to that 80 mark and possibly more than 80 hours, depending on your experience. As far as talking to your employer for support, Ryan touched on that a little bit. This is a great thing, again, if you move to another job, to get that built into your package and say, I want to take the CFRE exam. And as Ryan said, if you want to take out all of the X factor for your boss, to say, I will pay for the cost up front and you will reimburse me when I pass the exam. As with everything in life, get that in writing. So if your boss changes, you don't want your new boss saying, well, I didn't agree to that, right? That is a very popular way people do it. I also strongly believe that if you think that you might get your fee reimbursed, it's a great motivator to study, and make sure that first time is successful. All right. Well, it looks like we have hit our questions. We are almost out of time, but if anything comes to you afterwards that we can help you with, drop us a line at succeed@cfre.org. We will be more than happy to assist you. I thank you so much for joining us this hour. It has been great to have you on this call, and I wish you every success for your CFRE journey ahead. Take care.